everybody, and welcome back to the Somnium Files Explained. I'd expect this to not come out so soon after part 1. Well, we're busting down barriers and breaking expectations today, because we are covering the second chunk of the purple root in this wonderfully constructed narrative. First and foremost, I want to thank the fine folks over in Ushikoshi Somnium Discord, because a lot of the folks over there are running the Somnium Files Wiki, which has been instrumental in my keeping of notes any sort of reasonable order. So thanks again to Mimsy630.
Ignore my dumb outdated information. It's Maury. Please thank Maury everyone.
And Lord Thanatos, whose birthday is today on the day that I'm writing this script, so happy belated birthday. Since we did a full recap last time, I'm just going to say to check out the previous video to check up on where we are here. But I am of course going to suggest you catch up on the full series proper. This video is going to dive into topics we touched back on in the Lemnis Gate ARG, so as to not waste any more of your time. We last left off when Date discovered the corpse he had seen in Mizuki's Somnium in the cold storage warehouse. Several stab wounds in the back and frozen completely. Date has So Sujima brought into Abyss HQ for question, followed the murder of Iris Sagan since he was the last one to be seen near the corpse. He says he's never heard of Iris in his life. Aiba plays back the video of So leaving the cold storage warehouse, but even that isn't enough to get him to confess. He admits that he was at the warehouse, but claims he never saw the body and would not elaborate on why he was at the warehouse in the first place. Boss urges Date to be more efficient with his questions, as it wouldn't be a good idea to keep So too long unless they're able to get something concrete on him. Date then decides to go for So's alibi for the time of the murder. Based on how the corpse was, Iris would have had to have been killed around 2 or 3 a.m., So insisted he was playing mahjong at a private parlor at the time, and he didn't know the other players. Aiba and Date reasoned that there would be little to no potential witnesses, and the shopkeeper could be in So's influence, making his alibi unreliable. When Date confronted So about his alibi, Date gets what he needs, as So mentions the victim had been stabbed, a detail Date hadn't brought up before. From this point, So claims up as Date asks for permission to sing. Inside So's Somnium, Aiba needs to make an escape path for Iris to avoid becoming an eternal victim in this looping timeline. Aiba must drive the forklift and... comedy. Just comedy. A portal of sorts is revealed underneath the storage container. This causes a larger version of her hand to appear, and she's now able to knock over the large wooden box that had been in Iris's way. Next, over by a lever in the wall, Aiba chooses to input a fighting game combo. This allows the crane to be cleared, and the next obstacles in the way are gone. Aiba then heads to another portal and finds a warehouse door to open up. Iris is then able to use this portal to shrink in size to navigate through the tight space, as she got walled off by previously. Aiba then returns to the lever and then now raises it, which gives Iris a final method of escape, allowing So to wake up. Date, Pewter, and Boss all discuss the findings from the Somnium, but unfortunately aren't able to land anything concrete that would stand in a court of law. It most likely is the figure that was seen murdering Iris was So, but it couldn't be definitively proven. So claims he still does not know who Iris is, and he refuses to elaborate more on the cultist Shoko Nadami. Struggling to continue to keep him available, Date gets a call from CSI. Date rushes over to the warehouse to confirm that the body is in fact gone. Aiba suggests that the body must have been transported between when Date saw it and when CSI arrived on the scene. Date then rushes to the Sagan residence where he finds Iris in her house, very much alive and hanging out with Mizuki.
What are you doing? Barging in without ringing the doorbell? Oh, you see, Mizuki ended up staying at my place. Something wrong?
The world changed.
The next morning, Date and Boss discuss the events of the previous night. Date believes that solving So's Somnium has changed reality, and Iris is now alive because of such. Aiba disagrees with the notion, calling it irrational, but she doesn't have much of an explanation for what has happened either. Aiba explains that the cold storage warehouse was involved in Renju's family, but he hasn't directly inherited the warehouse. They discuss the possibilities of motivation for Renju to send Mizuki the message to head to Bloom Park, deciding that he is either the culprit, being blackmailed by the culprit, or the culprit used his phone to lure Mizuki to the park. Finally, Boss explains that she had to send So home last night, as they didn't have anything conclusive to keep him with. But she does admit he does look extremely suspicious given the circumstances. Date heads out to the coal storage warehouse. The two wonder why it takes CSI an hour and a half to arrive, and Aiba theorizes that outside influence could have caused the delay. Aiba confirms there is no further information to be gained at the warehouse, so Date decides to move on. He decides to head out towards the Sejime residence. Along the way, Aiba and Date begin to discuss So's involvement in the entire case. Aiba brings up that So's secretary has recently received a call from an inmate at Fuchu Prison, number 89. There's that familiar inmate cropping up once more. Aiba goes on to explain that number 89 had been an assassin known as Falco, and his real name and nationality were unknown. He was imprisoned for multiple counts of murder 6 years prior. Aiba could not determine his connection to the Cyclops serial killings or So, but agreed he was worth speaking to. Date asked if number 89 could be brought to Abyss for questioning. At So's residence, Date gets much of the same stonewalling that he'd gotten previously when asked about the relevant topics.
Aiba, look! A merman!
So is a wealthy politician. It is no surprise to me that he has a merman. Wait, a merman?
Oh, hey everybody! I'm a merman.
But one point of note is that Date was able to see that So was lying via a thermograph of his body when he had confirmed again that he didn't know who Iris was. But Date couldn't place a motivation for lying about this. After a failed tete-a-tete with the congressman, Date decided to head to Marble next. Mama explained that she didn't have any more intel on Renju specifically, but she is aware of the assassin named Falco. She says he had ties to the Kumakuras. This reminds Date of an old conversation that he had with Renju in the old days.
Hey, Date. Have you ever seen a dead body? You're a policeman. I don't know what department, but I assume you aren't handing out traffic tickets. So, how about it?
What about you?
Me? Well, yeah. Not just one, countless bodies. When I was in high school, I had a pretty crazy job. You know the Kumakura gang? I was hooked up to one of their phone fraud scams. I just had to go collect the money from drop points and give it to the Kumakuras. It was an easy job. Eventually, I became friends with the higher-ups. They started taking me with them on jobs.
What jobs?
The target was always an elderly person from the country with no family. Elderly folk who owned a lot of land, you know? They live every day in loneliness and desperation. You just have to be nice to them. That's all it takes. Guys would get to know the old people and they would set up an adoption process. After that, you just have to get them really drunk. Throw them in the tub full of hot water, and they pass. Just like that. Heart attack, brain hemorrhage, or they simply go to sleep and drown. The police almost never investigated. It always looked natural, like they died of old age. So the adopted gang members would inherit the land. Then we sell it and make massive profits. I watched a lot of people get killed like that. And I've seen journalists get killed for getting too close to the truth. So Why am I telling you all this? Are you going to arrest me?
You didn't do it yourself, right?
No, I was always the lookout. But still... Date,
Before Date leaves, Mama says if he stops around later at night, a regular who knows Renju will be stopping by. Date heads over to the Saga residence and finds Hitomi home alone. He asks Hitomi if she knows where Renju was, and she says that she doesn't. She opens up to Date about her past. Her parents had died when she was 17, so she was facing the world alone. She stayed in the house she grew up in since she was almost done with high school. She had Iris when she was 19, and had occasional help from Renju, since they were friends back in high school. She recounted a time when Iris fractured her leg 6 years ago, and Hitomi had to carry her to the hospital. Shortly after this is when the break-in happened, where she ended up being shot. She says Iris had ran into Hitomi's hospital room after her own surgery and begged her mom not to die.
Mommy, don't die! Don't die!
I swore to myself then that I would protect her, no matter what. Iris is everything to me, more important than my own life.
I've been wondering about that picture.
Iris drew it when she was 12.
That's you on the left and Iris in the middle, correct?
Yes,
And who's on the right?
the man I was dating at the time. It was only for 3 months, but I met him about 6 years ago. Have you been to the Ikume Shrine in the Minato district? I was praying there one day, and I heard a voice. Well, more like a groan. Behind the shrine, I saw a man sitting on the ground. He was bleeding badly from his stomach. I took out my phone to call an ambulance, but he grabbed my wrist, and he held me, and then he kissed me. I was shocked, but when I stared into his eyes, then I heard footsteps, and then a bunch of men yelling. They were looking for him. When the voices and footsteps faded, he let me go. Don't call an ambulance, and don't call the cops. I knew he had to be a criminal, so I took him to an underground clinic I knew.
You took him to a mob doctor?
Renju's friend. I only met him once. Even though we had our first kiss seconds after meeting each other, it took a long time before I got to see him again. The first time we held hands was when we watched a horror movie together. The first time I took his arm was when we went to a haunted house in an amusement park. But I wasn't the one who grabbed him. A zombie jumped out and scared us, and he clung onto my arm. He had that cute side to him. And I was falling in love. Our second kiss was in the car. It's cliché, I know, but we drove around at night, looking at all the lights. We parked our car near a warehouse and kissed. I don't think we ever said I love you, but we both knew. We were getting closer and closer. I introduced him to Iris about a month after I first met him. Iris never had a father figure in her life before. She warmed up to him immediately and treated him like a real dad. From then on, it was always the three of us together. We would go to the beach, to the river, the zoo, the amusement park. Going to barbecues with another person was a new experience for me and Iris. Everything felt so fresh. Every day was so exciting. Oh, sorry. You asked about the picture. He wanted to make okonomiyaki one day. He was working with the hot plate. It was ridiculous. He was trying to flip one, and it flew up in the air and landed right on my head. Iris saw the whole thing and laughed and laughed. I hadn't seen her laugh like that in a long time. I was having so much fun that I put an okonomiyaki on their heads too. Plop, plop. I added the bonito flakes and mayo and sauce. At this point, there was no going back. Eggs flew, flour going everywhere. The room was not a pretty sight. After our battle, we laughed like crazy. We were rolling around on the floor. So Iris decided to draw it. It's nostalgic. But those days didn't last. 6 years ago, in November, a man with a gun broke into our house. Fortunately, Iris wasn't home at the time, but my boyfriend was. That's why the gunman came. He wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill him, and he would never stop. He pulled the trigger. I tried to protect him. The bullet hit me, but the police arrived. They were both arrested and incarcerated.
Why was he after your boyfriend?
Before he met me, he committed some terrible crime. I don't know the details, but it was awful. So he became a target for underworld criminals. I don't know exactly why, but I know that he betrayed them in some way.
May I ask you something?
Of course.
I had heard that that incident was a random break-in gone wrong.
Oh. That's not true. I lied about it at the time, because of Mizuki. Mizuki is Iris's friend. If she found out, Iris would find out too. I didn't want Iris to know.
Know what?
That I was dating a criminal. He was her father figure. Iris looked up to him. If she found out about his past...
With those thoughts heavy on Date's mind, he bids Hitomi farewell, and travels out to Lemniscate. Iris is a little bit more than upset at Date for flaking on their supposed date, but Date sticks to the important information, telling her about Renju's accident, and questions her if she knows where he is. She says she doesn't have any info on where he is. She also similarly will not tell him why her phone was off, or who she met with after her livestream, but says she can tell him if he promises to go on a date. Date explains the situation surrounding finding her corpse in the cold storage warehouse, and strangely enough, Iris believes him. She says she has a recording to get to, but promises to meet him back in the lobby around 3. Date heads back to Abyss HQ, and Boss explains number 89 is available for question. She says she can't accompany him as one of the higher-ups needs her, but she'll have Peter tag along for the question. Number 89, aka Falco, refuses to answer any personal questions about himself, but does confirm he's called So's secretary. And he even got to speak with So himself, and he told So to call someone specific, but he wouldn't reveal who. Then when the topic turns to that, the murder of Shoko Nadami, Falco states that he will only divulge that information if he can be released.
We haven't agreed on a deal. You're gonna let me out of prison, right?
Yes, I promise.
You're lying. You don't want to release me. That's fine. I was expecting this anyway. I just wanted a good excuse to leave the prison.
What do you mean?
You really want to know? Here's what I mean! You'll make a good hostage for me. Take me to the exit. Now.
Back at Abyss HQ, Peter and Date explain to Boss his situation. She's furious at the circumstances. Peter explains that he took Peter's security card and left in security officer guard.
Spiking is an important part of volleyball.
Spiking. Spike Chun? What is that?
Once they reach the entrance, Falco split from Peter, and he was picked up in a car driven by Renju Okiura, according to surveillance footage. Moma then happens to call Date, and confirms that Renju Okiura has been spotted, but they'll need to meet with ASAP to learn anything else. Date heads back out to Lemnis Gate to meet with Iris. Being Role Model of the Year, he takes Iris to the Yakuza's den, and after some idle chit-chat, Moma confirms Renju was seen at Sunfish Pocket and then Ikumi Shrine. At Sunfish Pocket, Date and Iris meet up with Mizuki and Amame, the latter of whom is currently on duty. Date asks Amame about Renju, and she explains that he stopped by yesterday looking for Iris. It seems he'd showed up after Date and Ota were here. Amame also said that he seemed really sick, which would make sense if he was coming from his accident. Iris explains that Amame and Iris were old friends from when she was a mermaid at Sunfish Pocket, and she explains more that Renju was actually really helpful to her mom when he was raising her, and she got the job at Lemnis Gate because of Renju. Date asks Mizuki if she knows where Renju went, and she says the cold storage warehouse, but her thermograph reveals to Date that she's lying, and she also has a bit of an attitude to all of his questions. Amame takes Date to the side and begins to talk to him about Mizuki.
Mizuki was crying earlier.
Crying?
Yes, we were trying to cheer her up. What happened to her mom was... and we thought she was having a hard time. She must have come here looking for company. That's probably why she stayed with Iris last night. She didn't want to be alone.
Shoko's body is still under the jurisdiction of the police. There has not been a ceremony, nor has the body been cremated. The culprit has not been caught, and we cannot locate Renju. And on top of that, her roommate has abandoned her.
I did not abandon her.
In any case, there are many ways you could calm Mizuki down.
Mizuki is just trying to act strong. Please, try to understand.
With that under their belt, Date and Iris decide to head to Ikumi's shrine. Iris nearly falls over as the two enter. She claims she just missed a step. Still, to help, Date sits her down on a nearby bench. Here, Iris tells Date a story of a local legend.
It's called Ikume Iribiko Isachi no Mikoto, or sometimes Ikume Tenno, or Ikume no Mikoto. There are legends about this place written in the old text. It's a shrine dedicated to the gods. The old legend goes like this. One day, Ikume Iribiko sent one of his followers, Taji Momori, on an urgent quest to find a mysterious, magical fruit. a fruit called Tokichiku no Kaku. It's said that eating it will grant you immortality. After many hardships, Taji Momori was able to find the fruit, but by the time he got back, Ikume Iribiko had died. Taji Momori mourned. He handed half of the fruit to the man's wife, and he left the other half on Ikume Iribiko's grave, then died on the spot. It is said that that fruit is still inside the shrine behind us.
Really? Fruit of immortality.
Yes. It's nostalgic. This place is a memorable one for me. 6 years ago, I used to come here with someone.
Someone?
I used to call him Uncle. He was a thoughtful, reliable man. I thought of him as a father, but one day, he just disappeared.
She's talking about...
Hitomi's lover.
The flower over there.
Flower?
You can't see it from here, can you? I know it's there because I've been to this shrine before.
It's
Too dark.
An iris. More specifically, a winter iris. This is the same flower that was on display at Iris's house.
Yeah. How did you know? It's the same kind that's at my house. I told you about what it means, right?
Good news and hope.
Iris is also a part of the eye, and the Greek goddess of rainbows. A messenger goddess. I told you at Sunfish Pocket, right? That's why the flower means good news and hope. When you asked me why I became an idol, I wasn't being entirely truthful. I told you that it was because I wanted to become famous. But more specifically, it was for Uncle. I've been looking for him for 6 years, but I didn't find him anywhere. I didn't know where else to look, so instead of me finding him, I thought that he could find me instead.
You think if you became famous, he'd contact you?
Yeah.
So that is why she became an idol.
I mean, it's also been my dream since I was little. That's a part of it, too.
So why do you use the name Asa? Shouldn't you use your real name?
Oh no, I don't have to. He was the one who came up with the name Aset. He told me that if I ever became an idol, I should use that name.
Heading out, they head to Matsushita Diner, and Tessa has Ota make them some omelet rice. While he's cooking, Date tells Ota about Iris' resurrection. So here, we have more Uchikoshi loredom than you can shake your fist at. Since this next part is two characters explaining a bunch of pseudoscientific concepts very quickly, and as quickly as they possibly can, I'm just gonna let them play.
Fuck yeah!
Except for this first one here. This 100 million balls is the experiment of the anthropic principle. Iris did explain the anthropic principle in her conversation, but since Uchikoshi has already tackled this concept inside Zero Time Dilemma, I'm going to show that instead.
Nothing beats a cold one after surviving a close call. Come on! You guys should join me. Sorry, I'll pass.
I'm really not in the mood for it.
For real? Are you serious? Hey, are you already drunk? Yeah, I am! Drunk on life! I am buzzed on this kick-ass feeling of surviving the impossible!
You probably shouldn't drink too much, Junpei.
Why not? We're just going to conk out again in 40 minutes anyway, remember? We just experienced the miracle of hitting 1/216th odds, 0.46%, guys, come on! Haha, let's use the remaining time we have to savor this awesome moment.
A miracle, huh? It definitely would be, if it happened on the first try.
Guys, what are you saying? We only threw the dice once, right?
Are you sure about that? Maybe we just don't remember. And in reality, we've rolled the dice over and over again.
Huh?
If we threw them 3 times, the probability would be 72 to 1. I wouldn't really call those odds a miracle.
Oh, so what? Does that really matter? I'll say it again. We've only gone and thrown the dice once. Once. Right, Carlos?
Yeah, that's true. What are you trying to say, Akane?
Carlos, let's say you were going to roll 10 dice all at the same time. So, do you think you'd end up with all of them displaying a 1?
Of course not. It's impossible.
Right. The probability is 60,466,176 to 1, but that's essentially impossible. If you tried 60,466,176 times, however, what would happen?
The likelihood of all of them being 1 is...
Not so much of an impossibility, right? I'll give you another example. Junpei. If 2 to the 4th power, 16 people, compete in a rock, paper, scissors tournament, how many matches are needed before a winner can be determined?
Why are you talking about...
Just answer the question.
Really? Okay, first, the 16 narrow down to 8, then 8 to 4, and 4 to 2. After the final round, one person's left standing, so... a total of 4?
So, what would happen if 2 to the 100 did the same thing?
It'd be 100.
And how confident do you feel about winning this tournament, Junpei?
I'm not, obviously. You're out of the competition after you lose just one match. You'd have to win 100 rounds straight to win.
But someone will do it and win, right? A victor who wins 100 matches without losing one will exist. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
The person who won. But only because of circumstance. I mean, more or less.
Well, duh, but why are you...
It may be obvious, but it's important. The one who lives on does so due to circumstance.
The anthropic principle.
Oh, you've heard of it?
Yeah, it's connected to the many worlds and multiverse theories.
The hell are you...
This universe is a little too well suited for human beings. That principle explains why. They say, for example, that if Jupiter was just a bit smaller, the Earth likely wouldn't have even formed. That's not the only instance either. There are physical constants throughout the universe. But if even one had changed the tiniest bit, humanity wouldn't have been created at all.
But anyone can see we do actually exist.
And that's exactly my point. We exist. Therefore, we know that we exist. Perhaps somewhere in reality there are countless universes devoid of humanity where the idea of humans didn't even begin. But it isn't possible to know if those other universes exist or not. That's because there are no human beings to observe within them. The only universe we can measure is our own. Therefore, this is the universe we exist in.
Wait, are you talking about tautology?
1 + 1 = 2 is a form of tautology also, right? The left and right sides of the equation say the same thing.
That's sophistry.
Are you sure?
Anyway, I get what you're trying to say, Akane. Maybe, somewhere in this world, there are an infinite number of histories where we were executed by the Gatling guns. But we don't know if those histories really exist. Basically, because we're dead in those histories. The dead can't observe the world. Only those who are still alive can do that. Therefore, We exist here, now.
The opposite of what I just explained could be true as well. The universe could be not meant for humanity. Maybe there's one not limited by gravity, where they travel faster than light. You can't say for sure such a universe doesn't exist. If it does, then we could expect that aliens would be interacting together within it.
Okay, now that sounds like fun.
Maybe that was the universe God had intended in the first place. And this one is a failure.
So, we exist in the universe God abandoned, huh?
Do you know Nelson Mandela?
Well, yeah, the former president of South Africa. He helped abolish apartheid.
He died in 2013, but a strange thing happened. When the news broke, people all over the world thought, didn't Mandela die in prison in 1980? That's the Mandela effect. It's when your memory and history have discrepancies. There are lots of examples, like the name of this kid's book with the bears having different spellings, or people remembering that Kennedy was assassinated in a 4-seat car. But in our world, he was in a 6-seat car.
Huh. I thought it was a 4-seater too.
Or that electric mouse from that video game. You probably remember the tip of its tail being black.
It wasn't?
Nope, it's all yellow. And the design didn't change.
Oh.
Lines from movies, company logos, historical events, and little things. The Mandela effect is everywhere. Why do you think that is?
Because those memories are from parallel worlds?
That would explain it, I guess.
Dante, look at this picture. There's a famous experiment regarding this picture. You show this image to people around the world and ask a question. Which one is Booba and which one is Kiki? Believe it or not, 98% of people asked have the same answer. The rounder one is Booba and the jagged one is Kiki. Isn't that weird? In other words, everyone thinks that Booba is a certain way and Kiki is the other. It applies universally across languages and cultures. It's like something ingrained inside all humans. Like worshipping the sun and the sea, or thinking that the mother is soft and the father is jagged. Regardless of your culture or background, you probably think this way. It's what Jung called the collective unconscious. There exists a second psychic system of a collective universal and impersonal nature, which is identical in all individuals. That's what Jung said about it. Think of it like bamboo. Bamboo stalks look like individual plants since they're separated, but underground, they're all connected. Human psyches might be like that too, connected at a subconscious level. That's
the parallel world?
Yeah! You saved me in the dream, right? And dreams are all about our subconscious minds. So if you follow the roots...
You get to another bamboo stalk.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it's sort of like a common experience. A lot of people have experienced waking up in an uninhabited world they've never seen before. And most of them describe seeing the same person. The spatial temporal man. He's supposed to be an ordinary old man wearing work clothes. The spatial temporal man guides people back to the real world. He tells them, this world is not for you, or something.
I'd like to meet him someday.
So, this elementary school kid, let's call him C. He goes to school and there's a bunch of things on the floor. Postcards, towels, a coffee cup, rice bowls, a sink, lots of stuff. But C realized that those were all things from his own house.
How did they get to the classroom?
No one knows. It's not like anyone did it on purpose or there was a thief or anything.
Maybe something happened that made two parallel worlds fuse.
Yeah, maybe. There's this kid, A. He's in elementary school. Well, A had this close friend named Suzuki. One day, after school, they're walking home together. A turns around to tell Suzuki a joke, and Suzuki is laughing his butt off. and he's laughing and laughing, and he laughed so hard that his eyes fell out of their sockets.
What?
Well, they were hanging down out of his eye sockets. The nerves were still connected, but... A is of course in shock and doesn't know what to do. Suzuki just takes his eyeballs and jams them back into his eye sockets and keeps walking like nothing happened. So A asks him about it. Like, hey, are you okay? Your eyes fell out. A is really concerned for his friend, you know? But Suzuki just says, yeah, I'm fine. He doesn't say anything about it. And by now, A is really curious. But he's not getting any answers. So they just part ways and go home. The story only gets weirder from here. The next day, A goes to school, and Suzuki's not there. A is confused and asks his teacher about it. Hey, where's Suzuki today? And the teacher says, Suzuki? Who's that? There's no Suzuki in this class. A says, what are you talking about? And he goes and asks all of his classmates about Suzuki. They all say the same thing. I don't know him. There's no Suzuki in this class.
So that kid must have jumped into a parallel world without Suzuki.
That's what I think.
Couldn't Suzuki just be an imaginary friend or something?
No, A was really serious about remembering Suzuki.
It is weird, and there's no way you can pop your eyeballs back in like that.
Well, not necessarily. There's such a thing as a dislocated eye. It actually isn't too hard to put your eye back in if it falls out.
Ota is correct. Dislocated eyes are easy to replace in their sockets. As long as none of the nerves or blood vessels were damaged, there are usually no lasting negative effects either.
But that doesn't prove this Suzuki exists.
Well, I guess not, but... So, there's this girl? Let's call her B. She's practicing piano in her room, and her little sister is watching TV in the same room. B asks her to turn the TV volume down so she can hear her piano playing. So B goes back to practicing, playing a little bit. But her sister doesn't turn the volume down. She's not listening at all. So B turns around to scold her. She was really gonna let her sister have it, but she's gone. She's nowhere to be seen. She thinks, I wonder where she went. But then B hears her sister at the door. I'm home. B runs to the front door and sees her sister and her parents standing there. So B asks, when did you go outside? But her mom says, what are you talking about? She went shopping with me. B is really confused by all of this, of course. She asks her little sister about it, and she learns that her favorite TV show was on. And before she went shopping with her mom, she was deciding whether or not she wanted to stay and watch it or not.
So depending on her decision, a parallel world was made.
Yeah, what B saw might have been from the world where her sister stayed behind. I know a ton of stories like this. Like being suddenly transported 1 year into the future, and there's a missing persons report out for you. You look down at your phone, but you realize that it's not yours. It's not the one you remember having. You look through the contacts, and it's filled with names you don't recognize.
Sounds scary.
There's more, too. Like this town where everyone is Japanese, but they're speaking a completely different language. And all the signs and magazines and stuff have different letters. And it's not like Korea or China. It's the Japan we know, but the language is different.
That's a prime example of a parallel world.
When did you two get so knowledgeable?
Oh, I don't know.
Tessa is always writing about this stuff on the internet. That's why I decided to research it too. That's how I learned all this stuff. Oh, hey, I know about conspiracies and secret societies too. I find that stuff fascinating. If you want, we could talk about those.
Maybe next time. Now where's that omelet rice?
Okay, after the pseudoscience chat, Date and Iris decide to head out to the cold storage warehouse, where Date and Iris talk about the nature of somniums, as he explains to her the process of sinking. He explains sinking as entering someone's house, but doing so when they're not home, as only one person can inhabit a house at a time. They can interact with the things inside for 6 minutes, but if a sinker stays in for longer than 6 minutes, that person can become trapped in the house when the other person comes home. On the way to Marble, Boss calls Date and confirms they have not yet found number 89. Date says he's going to Golden Yokucho for more information on Renju. And when they arrive, we get another scene from the Lemnis Gate ARG. The latter situation of the game coverage when Date and Iris face armed thugs in Golden Yokucho. Date manages to save Iris from the assailants. Date has Aiba access the Wadjet system to predict local future timelines to secure an exit strategy. After this, Date takes Aiba back to his apartment to cool off from the situation. Aiba confirms that Mizuki is at Sunfish Pocket still, and so Date sits Iris down to explain the situation. Iris admits that she wanted Date to go on a date with her so frequently. It wasn't because she had a crush on him, or to use for leverage like the photo before, but it was because she believed her life was being threatened by a secret society, and she needed a bodyguard. The secret society, if you recall from the Lemnis Gate ARG, was called Knights at Lots, a group under the control of the Wadjet system, with the goal of completing the satellite X00639. She explained that X00639 was a large satellite of unknown origin. Its true purpose was to function as a powerful radio transmitter. The Wadjet system, according to Iris, was an artificial intelligence decoded from alien radio signals by the company Elgord. Aiba insists that none of Iris' explanation was true, but if you think about it, the AI would say that the AI is right. Iris then goes on to explain that Nicelos had members in powerful positions all over the world. Wadjet's goal was to transmit their data to a distant planet and continue to proliferate like any other species. While their motives were unknown, the fact that they had incredible power and did nothing to solve the world's problems made them a villain in Iris' eyes. So she had to set out to make the world acknowledge the evil acts of Nice, such as through her video series on Lemnis Gate. So one quick note on Nice and Wadjet that I can make a quick comparison to. Nice is very similar to the religious group from the Zero Escape series called Free the Soul, who, interestingly enough, used to be called Free the Soul of Y. The of Y part had to be removed from their name, but it is known that when it was included, their name was an anagram of the left eye of Horus, otherwise known as the Wadjet, or the Wadjet. You got a lot of thematic similarities running through here, and I just wanted to point this out as it will be important for later. Date has a plan, and on the way to Abyss, he has a bad feeling that Boss might have used the information they'd given her against him, since she was the only one who knew Iris was going to be in Golden Yokucho. He dials Peter to ask if another sync machine exists outside of Abyss. Peter denies this, but does say there was a prototype of the machine that was stolen 6 years ago, but its current whereabouts were unknown. Peter also told Date that he currently was out drinking in Shinjuku, as he was going to go get a drink in Golden Yokucho, but he did hear about the shootout, so he decided to stay away. Boss was also out, meaning Abyss was free and clear. Date's plan was to sync with Iris, and if he could deduce that she was telling the truth about Nice, then he agreed to become her bodyguard. Now, from this point on, we're going to have another Somnium that will branch off into 2 different paths. The next video is going to cover the last of the Purple Route, and then we'll be moving over to cover the final 2 endings of the game, the Annihilation ending and the Resolution ending. With that, if you like this, you can check out my other Explained series content, as I have plenty more where this has come from.